here and participate, we'll call the meeting to order. Ms. Jones, roll call.
All right. Secretary Halverson.
Here.
Thank you. Vice Chairman Harrigan.
Here.
Thank you. Member Holmes.
Here.
Thank you. Chairman Lewis.
Here.
Thank you. Member Martell.
Present.
Thank you. Member Siegel.
Here.
Thank you. And Member Sutherland.
Here.
Thank you. Excellent.
Thank you all for your presence. I know it's a small meeting, but I really appreciate that we're still checking in and that you're all committed to the school. I had no doubt, but I certainly appreciate it. Are there any modifications to the agenda? Okay, hearing of none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
Approved.
Tom.
Moved Tom, second OJ. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right, that was a good vote. That doesn't count for two, though. Sorry. All right, great. Agenda's approved. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak on items on the agenda? Being a special meeting, we will entertain comment on items on the agenda. Ms. Jones, have we received any written comment?
Nope, no, none written submitted.
And no members of the public on the call?
We do have some staff members, but I haven't seen anyone requesting to speak.
Okay, then we'll move on to item 3.1. This is our 361 open meeting determination. As required by state law, monthly we have to make a determination that is because of the situation in the state right now related to the virus, that we are meeting virtually for safety of all attendees. And so this is for you, this item. Are there any questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to make a determination that we must still continue to meet virtually.
So moved.
Okay, Holmes and Martell, thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Our next item is the homework assignment that I had asked each of you last month. I know the holidays have gone and we've been busy. I had asked each of you to submit to me any, if you had any requests or thoughts about the agenda for the strategic planning meeting Friday the 21st? First, yeah. And we'll have our business meeting on the 22nd. I haven't received anything, which that may mean that you just trust Ms. Gaskell and I so much to put a meaningful agenda together. We are meeting tomorrow at 2:30 to put the agenda together. So if any of you, basically, as I've said before, I do want to take a step back and really do more of a traditional strategic planning with a much tighter term, probably a 18 to 24 month timeline, but really looking at where we are as a school, doing a SWOT analysis, talking through, really starting out, understanding good data, understanding a common picture of where the school is, and then really looking at threats and opportunities, whether it be from Sacramento, whether it be through our a virtual environment that we have still, threats or opportunities as students are learning to live as COVID-19 becomes endemic. What does that mean for us? And really then looking at our new site in Riverside, opportunities at Chico that's relatively new that was struggling, but I think is starting to turn around. And then really looking at what we have and what we do with it, and do we want to do else? And so I think we're finally getting to a position where we can actually have some of these conversations. There's a little bit of blue sky, as we've talked about, and so also potential funding sources for the school. So I think that's a lot of what we'll talk about on Friday. It will be a much more thought out agenda than that, but and then Saturday will be our normal business meeting. So that's what Jane and I are talking about tomorrow, but I would love to have your comments or input. If there's things that you want to, we can talk about it now if you're ready to give me some, or you can email it to me and I'll make sure it's included when Jane and I do the agenda. Any thoughts?
Jim, the long range plan for last year, will that be addressed at the beginning of the meeting with items that need attention and results of action on those items?
So I think we haven't had a long range plan for a couple of years, unless I'm mistaken, because we went from Shasta to Anderson to marketing enrollment issues to COVID and state legislative threats. And so we really last year turned our all of our eyes onto the state legislation that we struggled through that was going to really limit independent study, and then just opening and working through COVID prior to that. So that's why I want to really focus on it. Our other initiatives had to do with our LCAP
Yes.
objectives and goals. And so perhaps, OJ, is that what you're referring to, that we have staff review where we are on the LCAP goals? And
Yep.
Is that what you're referring to?
Yep.
Okay, got it.
And a lot of the data that we showed you at the last meeting, by we, that would be Lindsay compiling all of that, is data that's directly related to those goals from the LCAP. And we had asked you at that point if there was anything more you wanted as far as data is concerned than what she had already kind of put together for you, to let us know. We want to get you that data ahead of time, and we will get it to you ahead of time so you can review it before then we're just walking in the door. And that will, that, and then a little presentation on the marketing data as well, as far as how many we've reached out to, how that affected enrollment. We're going to start with all that data information and then go from there and give you an update on those goals based on the data. Is that all right?
Yep, good for me.
Hey, what else?
I was going to actually advocate for the same thing, and more of a progress report on the goals. The data is very good to see, but I would also value, Jana, just really clear met, in progress, continuing, not met, going to continue, or drop off. Does that make sense?
There you go.
Yep.
Great.
I used to do that for my board, kind of a more, because the data backup is really good for those of us who really like to drill into the data, but kind of pre-new strategic planning, a kind of really cut to the chase summary, met, continuing, not, in progress, not met, and whether those goals are still pertinent or not, I think informs us about what we would do with the new plan.
Perfect. That's helpful. Thank you.
Kevin, I appreciate
yeah.
that, because I tend to be a higher elevation analyst as opposed to digging into the data. So that would be helpful to me. Thank you for sharing.
If I could also just contribute some information about what's required by the state, we do have a mandate that we do an official LCAP report to the board before the end of February, and that will take place at the January meetings. And it also will include expenditure data. So it's updates on the goals, have we implemented, or are we still in progress, or struggling to make progress on certain goals and actions, but it will also include a sort of budget update and expenditures on, are we spending the money that we had allocated towards those actions and services.
Excellent.
Two specific items that I want to talk about as I'm listening is I want to finally have that good discussion on our reserve funds and how we strategically use that. We kind of threw it out there at a meeting, I think our last meeting in November, but we need to really tackle that. So I'll want to make sure we get into that and continue to discuss staff attraction and retention as we continue to work through hiring and really kind of understanding what our staff needs and what motivates them. We'll have them there on Friday. So having open discussion with them will be great. I want to take advantage of the staff presence, having all of our senior staff there. So that will be there being in the meeting online, but nonetheless, that would be very helpful. Other comments? Make sure we don't miss anybody. Sounds good. Okay. We will send out, after Jana and I talk tomorrow, we will send out an email with the preliminary. I really want to make sure we have everybody's participation and buy-in on the agenda, because it's going to be a good use of your time. I want to make sure we are really getting the most of every board member to be effective. So I will send that out after Jana and I talk tomorrow. That agenda will also have additional logistical details, if you're following me, about the meeting on each day and other opportunities during that weekend, Friday, Saturday, for you for following along with the meetings. So Stay tuned. Please do check your emails. We will need some information from each of you. We want to make sure the meeting is as engaging as we can using technology. Liz, make sure you and Jana have talked about that, because I'm not sure. You sent me something a month ago that was terrific. With some opportunities and different to make the meeting more engaging as opposed to just little Zoom boxes. And so, Jana, if you can be prepared to talk through that with me tomorrow, that would be helpful.
Okay.
So we can get as much participation as possible.
Great.
Jim, I have one thing. Maybe
Yeah.
it's on basic issues. You can't be great in everything. So, what are the major issues
Why
coming
not?
up?
Yeah. Speak for
Yeah,
yourself.
I'm like, have you not met Jim Lewis? What do you mean?
You're a Trojan, man. Yes, we can.
You
Exactly.
can do
Fight
anything.
on.
That or you cheat. You cheat. That's what you got to do. If it doesn't work, otherwise you cheat. That's the way it goes. In any case, having some options, maybe, the things that are out there like A, B, and C, and we can't do A, B, and C. We have to pick one of them and why. But those kind of alternatives that are sitting out there that are coming up that we'd like to do, but we can't do them all. And and having some rationale. And that's where the conversation is about saying, this is A is a good thing, B is a good thing, and C is a thing, but we can't do all of these. And then the staff's recommending, let's say C for the sake of argument. And it relates to cost and practicality and everything like that. I think that's a long-term look at something that boards make choices on or help make choices on. So I would have something like that would be appreciated.
Well put, Tom. I'm hopeful that is where we can end up. That we actually affirm some things we're doing. You're right. Clear the deck on a few things. And if there is any capacity for a new initiative or not, and if there is, what is that initiative? Do those choices. I totally agree with you. I made note. Thank you. Okay. Any other comments before we adjourn?
I just have a question on the timing. So originally, both of the meetings later in January were scheduled for 8:30 a.m. But I've heard that the start time will be 9 a.m. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's 9 o'clock?
9 start
We're gonna
time.
move it to 9 o'clock.
If anybody is in Southern California, pending our leadership retreat, breakfast will be served at 8:30.
I have it on my iPad, so it's all settled.
All right. So stay tuned for your email, because there are some other things related to this meeting that we'll need to get your input on. And Dr. Harrigan, you especially stay tuned to your email, because there's some logistical things we have to talk to you about offline.
Yeah, that's fine, Jim. I thought we can do that offline as well.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, well then look forward to seeing all of you virtually and then some in a couple of weeks.